Hi. So one of the very common misconceptions when people are learning to drive or indeed preparing for their part two is they believe that they need to use the steering wheel in a certain way. They need to use what's called the push-pull or feeding technique. They have to have their hands held rigidly at either side of the steering wheel, a 10 to 2 position, or a course to 3 position. They can't cross their hands, they can't let the wheel spin back through their hands, etc, etc. And it simply isn't true. Okay, I don't think it ever was true, but I think it dates right back to before the vast majority of cars these days, as we know, have got power steering. So it sort of goes back into the almost dark ages, if you like, where we were driving cars that didn't have power steering, and therefore it was quite awkward to steer, and it really needed quite a lot of leverage to pull the steering wheel round, which may have been where this whole push-pull thing came from. And it sort of just existed almost as an urban myth ever since then, even up to modern times. But it simply isn't the case. And even indeed, if you look at the guidance notes that driving examiners are given when it comes to assessing both learner tests and part 2 tests, is they're told that whatever steering technique the driver is using is perfectly fine as long as the examiner deems that the driver is in control of the steering at all key points. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate a few things that you can quite legitimately do on your part 2 test, and the examiner is going to be absolutely fine with it. We'll also sort of compare and contrast to how awkward it can be if you feel like, or you're being told that you need to use this push-pull or feeding the steering wheel technique. Okay, so let's just have a drive around for a few minutes, see what happens, and I'll give you a few points along the way. Okay, so I'm preparing to pull out of a parking bay. Obviously checking all around, make sure it's safe first, and we'll put an indicator on. Now straight away you'll notice, to be honest, I don't really think about what I'm doing with the steering wheel, but I'll try and make a conscious effort to sort of cross my hands where I feel it's appropriate. So here, for example, because I'm going to steer quite sharply, I'm going to cross my hands, and then what I'll let the steering wheel do is sort of almost straighten itself up. Now, I do want to keep that skin in contact with the wheel, but I can sort of just let it do its own thing. That's absolutely fine. So again, I'm crossing my hands here, turning left, again crossing over again, turning right, crossing again, sharp steering, let the wheel spin back through my hands, keeping skin in contact with it, turning left, let the wheel just skip a little bit back through my hands, because again it wanted to do its own thing. It wants the front wheels to come back straight wherever possible. It's what the steering system is designed to do. Okay, I'm going to go straight on here. Now, as you can see, I have got my hands held, roughly at a 10 to 2 position. I'm not anal about it. I find it not only sort of easy for me to do, but sort of keeps keeps my mind occupied, if you like. If I just move my hands around the wheel a little bit, it just stops me from getting a little bit bored, really. So I'm going to be turning right here. So again, let's see what I do with the steering wheel. Crossing my hands, letting the wheel spin back through. Just guiding the steering wheel in terms of where I'm looking and where I want it to go to next. I don't have to have my hands at a fixed position. Again, I'm preparing to turn left. So again, sort of subconsciously thinking about my steering, so sort of just crossing my hands a little bit, just moving them around, just readjusting them at various places on the wheel, so I just feel like I've got control and I'm able to use the steering wheel in the correct way in terms of getting the car pointed, directed where I want it to go. Okay, now what the examiners absolutely don't want to see and would be unacceptable is if you use the steering wheel as I'm going to demonstrate now. Okay, so here you can hopefully see I've got both hands sort of firmly positioned at the bottom of the wheel, and I'm keeping them there, and I'm keeping them there, and I'm keeping them there, and I'm sort of just feeding it through, having a sort of really lazy arms, I suppose, lazy hands, just holding everything so I can almost sort of relax my elbows sort of into my lap, and just driving around like this, which is very common, and it's something that you might become aware of you do yourself. And if that's the case, then you definitely need to get out of this habit. Equally, the other thing they don't like to see is the opposite, if you like, having both hands at the top. So we're going to turn left, both wheels at the top, both hands at the top, and then almost sort of getting your arms all twisted up, and not being able to steer as much as you perhaps needed to. So try to keep your hands around the middle of the wheel wherever possible, but don't have them in a fixed sort of rigid position, almost as if you've got them super glued to the wheel, which again is very common when it comes to students, as I'll demonstrate in a moment. You can see they're grabbing hold of the wheel, you can see the tension in their shoulders and their arms, and I'm going to be turning left, and then this is what you get. And it's all very jerky, very awkward. So as early as you can, when you're teaching students, get them to have a nice light grip on the wheel, relax their shoulders, and try to steer as naturally as possible. Steer with their eyes as much as they steer with their hands. So looking at where they want to start the car, so where they want to get the car to go next, and then letting their hands sort of naturally follow where their eyes are looking. Equally, when it comes to your Part 2 test, examiners don't want to see this. Where you just steering around one-handed at the top or at the bottom, or just with one hand in general, with your left arm or your right arm, if you wanted to do it that way, sort of just in cruise mode. Okay, because what they're mindful of, which is what you should be mindful of, is if you're driving at any sort of speed whatsoever and you get a blowout, or you have to steer rapidly for something, and quite drastically, then just having one hand on the wheel is potentially very dangerous. Okay, now that doesn't mean to say that you have to have two hands on the wheel at all time. Of course you don't, as I'll demonstrate now. Because if you have two hands on the wheel at all time, you can't change your gear, can you? Okay, and even if you're driving an automatic, you don't need to have two hands fixed to the wheel at all time. So again, don't be anal about it. Don't be worried about driving along and taking your hand off the steering wheel for a second or two. Maybe you want to scratch your nose, hopefully not pick it, particularly with an examiner next to you. Not a problem at all. So please don't worry or get yourself sort of all het up and anxious about how you are steering your car. As I say, as long as the examiner is quite confident that you've got control over the steering wheel as much as you need to at all key points, then it really isn't something that should cause you any issue whatsoever. So just here, let's have a look at the, if you like, old-fashioned, awkward push-pull technique as a sort of contrast to what I've just been showing you. So sharp right, then sharp left. Back again, up the driveway, and sharp right here, whip it round. Hey, it's a lot of effort, trust me. I think if I drove around like that all the time, I'd be pretty knackered. Okay, cool, hope that made sense, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers, bye.